He could not call it dead. He felt life pouring into him from it every moment. No, space was the wrong name. Hey everyone, this is James from Moving Books. Something a bit different today. We'll be shifting away from J.R.R. Tolkien for a bit, and we will be looking at another member of the so-called Inklings. It's none other than C.S. Lewis himself, who, much like Tolkien, wrote his own epic. But it's not the Chronicles of Narnia. Lewis's cosmic or space trilogy, as it is sometimes known, is comprised of 3 science fiction novels: Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandra, and That Hideous Strength. The first 2 follow the character of Elwyn Ransom, an academic from Cambridge who finds himself traveling through space and exploring the unknown and mysterious planets of Mars and Venus respectively. In the third book, we find he's more of a supporting character. However, although each novel can be read independently from the other, there's an overarching storyline, and especially the themes and motifs carry across from the very first pages to the last. So this particular book is the single-volume edition from 2013, which celebrates the 75th anniversary since the publication of the first novel in 1938. It includes a foreword and afterword by J.R.R. Tolkien, in which he discusses how Lewis and himself had one day decided to write a space and time travel story respectively. Lewis, in charge of the space story, completed this book, although Tolkien's time-traveling manuscript unfortunately remained unfinished, and does in fact make up the core content of Volume 5 from the History of Middle-earth series, The Lost Road and other writings. So this particular edition of the Space Trilogy is great for any collector, although I have to note the rather humongous size of the book, which runs at over 700 pages. It feels rather heavy in one's hands and admittedly makes for a tiring read after a while. Unless of course you don't mind this, I actually suggest opting for the more practical paperbacks for each novel separately, for a more pleasant and comfortable reading experience. I feel Lewis's world building here is absolutely superb, especially in the second novel, Perelandra. He has such a keen eye and has a clear and concise way of relating information and details to his readers. In fact, I think one of Lewis's best traits is actually his style of writing. He talks about events and builds these complex characters so effortlessly, it's just a joy to read. Speaking of world building, the science fiction descriptions of Mars and Venus are wildly imaginative, and in a good way. They are rich in detail and imagery, and thanks to Lewis's storytelling skills, he manages to take his readers from one set piece to the other with ease. With the third novel, however, although it takes place on Earth, a significant amount of world building was nonetheless required to construct a fictitious English village, complete with all the typical characters and landmarks one usually finds in such places. I must admit that science fiction was never my favorite of the literary genres, and I ventured into these works with caution, and primarily due to my admiration for C.S. Lewis himself and his other works. However, I can say that the Space Trilogy is truly an outstanding piece of work. Fair warning though, it is certainly not for everyone. One thing I realized from the start is that Lewis's stories become quickly intertwined with the philosophical and deeply metaphysical arguments. So much so that, especially in Book 2, Perelandra, whole pages of the book are devoted to 2 characters arguing back and forth about all things humanity and the divine. And whilst Lewis manages to infuse the right balance of conflict and tension in these conversations, the arguments put forth can be quite overwhelming and dragging. This is one of the reasons why I feel that the first novel, Out of the Silent Planet, is perhaps the best of the 3. It's clear, straight to the point, and actually quite short. Nevertheless, as already mentioned before, Perelandra has the most sophisticated world building of the 3. Then again, the third book relies heavily on mythology and all things Arthurian tradition. Going back to the first book, then, we get our first taste and introduction into Lewis's imaginative universe that promises a thought-provoking, heavy-going, and highly inspiring read. And these are just some of the reasons why, although you can read each novel independently, friendly warning, if you start reading one, you're in it for the rest. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!